Hello Star Wars fans, and welcome to another exciting video from the Super Awesome Geek Show. I'm John, the Vintage Geek, and host of the Super Awesome Geek Show podcast. And, you know, the Star Wars Rebels Season 4 Trailer 2 dropped yesterday, and I wanted to give myself some time before I did a reaction video, because I wanted to let it sink in and really be able to look at all the imagery that we saw in the trailer, and then pull out some things that I feel like are significant. And yeah, I'm going to give you a breakdown now, a complete full review and breakdown of this trailer, along with a bunch of my thoughts and what I think I see hiding and lurking in the imagery that we gathered from this just incredibly awesome trailer. Really well done. Fantastic job putting it together. Everybody at Lucasfilm there, you know, Dave Filoni, Pablo Hidalgo, and everybody else who's worked on this. You've done an impressive job. The trailer gives us so many tidbits, but yet leaves us with so many questions. I mean, you did a brilliant job putting this together. Amazing. So in the beginning, we hear everyone's name in echoes. Hera, Rex, Kanan. You hear Kanan yell, "Ezra!" startling him awake. And Ezra's like, "What happened?" You know? And then we go into this poem. Now, this is an interesting thing. You know, it's a loth wolf with a loth cat on his head. And we don't know if he's the one that's, like, echoing the poem, or if it's like a different scene and this is just audio going over the shot of the wolf with the loth cat on him. But it says Lothra, which we're taking as loth rat. So loth rat, loth cat, loth wolf, run. Pick a path and all is done. And you hear a word echoing at the end. Is done, is done, is done. Now that's what everyone is saying. Now, when you listen to this clip, I'm going to play the clip right here, and listen to what it sounds like, okay? And then you decide for yourself what you think that they're actually saying.
Loth run, loth cat, loth wolf run. Pick a path and all is done.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Now, when I first heard it, I thought that it was saying Snoke. Now listen to it again, just the repeating word. Now it kind of sounds like Snoke, or something like that. But we did ask online on Twitter, and Pablo Hidalgo, after a little while, did get back to us, and he confirmed that it is the echoing words "is done." The two words "is done," "is done," "is done," is echoing in the background. And when I listened to it again this morning, so last night I was totally convinced that it was Snoke. I listened to it probably 100 times on the television. I copied it here and I listened to it like on my phone so I could put it right up next to my ear. But then this morning when I rewatched the trailer and listened to that part over and over again from the original audio on my computer, it really did sound like they're saying "is done." So I'm going to go with Pablo's suggestion here, and that it is just echoing "is done, is done, is done." I mean, he does work on the show, but he could be misleading us. Who knows? What do you guys think? Do you think he says Snoke, or do you think he says "is done"? It could just be that my old vintage ears are starting to go away, and I'm not able to hear things as well as I think I can, you know? But Snoke is done? All right, we'll leave you to think about that one. So then we go on, we see Mandalore, and Hera asks Kanan, what's the status of the Imperial occupation? So we do know that it is for sure, a fact, a definite, that Mandalore is being occupied by the Imperial Empire, the regime. The Emperor has control of Mandalore. So my question is, are we going to see the fall of Mandalore? The final devastation that ruins the entire planet? Because we all know in the lore, and it's never been stated in a film or on a TV show or anything, but we do know that George Lucas's original idea with Boba Fett was that armor was a Mandalorian set of armor, and that it was from a race called the Mandalorians that were completely destroyed by the Empire prior to our seeing Boba Fett in Empire Strikes Back there. So maybe we're finally going to see the complete fall and destruction of Mandalore, or maybe they're just going to retcon that whole thing. I mean, it's not really a retcon because we never saw it on TV or film. So maybe it's just they've altered the idea slightly because everyone just loves the Mandalorians. And I mean, it's kind of interesting because Kanan responds with it's in complete lockdown. So you know that they have complete control of that planet. And then the other thing I found interesting was this disintegrator ATDP. I wasn't sure if it was an ATST or an ATDP on my first glance, but now that I can pause it and look at it, it has more of the head shape of an ATDP. And then it has this disintegrator ray, which you can see as it shoots. It can hit multiple enemies with lightning, some kind of lightning thing, but it completely evaporates them. I mean, all that's left is the guy's helmet when he lands on the ground, pretty much. And it looks to me like they're seeing this through a view screen, or that they're looking at it on a hologram, or maybe even through one of the helmets of the other Mandalorians in the battle. So maybe we're getting a sort of like a Mandalorian eye view, bird's eye view, Mandalorian eye view of this battle here. Through just basically looking at it through the helmets of some of the other Mandalorians as this is happening. Or we could be seeing it on a view screen somewhere. And maybe, I mean, I'm wondering if this is the weapon that Sabine was talking about. Is this the thing that she made and created that she thought was a horrible weapon and had to leave Mandalore in order to stop it from being developed or something? I think, because I mean, they've hinted at all that stuff throughout the series. So yeah, I'm just curious what this weapon is and if this is indeed the thing that Sabine had talked about throughout the series. So war is raging. I'm assuming they're saying like it's all over the galaxy, but we're seeing the first major conflict here on Mandalore. And later on we'll see something on Lothal, of course, because Ezra remarks that we've got to save Lothal. We promised his people. And in this one image here, I think that there's a nod to Boba Fett here. Maybe even 2 or 3 nods if you look real closely. But it looks to me like there are 3 to maybe 5 different clans in this image. And I'm basing that on seeing the clan markings on the shoulders or on certain helmets here. And to me, there's at least 3 different markings. And you could make the argument that there's up to 5 different markings. So I think we see Bo-Katan here holding the Darksaber, uniting Mandalore under a single common cause. You know, she's uniting all the clans. But we do hear Sabine's mother. I assume that's her mother talking. She says, "Time for you to prove your time for you to prove your loyalty to all of Mandalore." And Sabine, we see her then with the Darksaber fulfilling her destiny. I think she's got to choose between her friends or Mandalore. And, or maybe just like choose to take up the mantle of the Darksaber and lead the people of Mandalore. Maybe Bo-Katan dies. Who knows, right? We don't know. And then it's up to Sabine to take the mantle and lead. Or maybe her mother dies. You know, we don't know what's going to happen right at this point. But we eventually do see her lifting the Darksaber. So, yeah. I mean, that's going to be some pretty amazing stuff. I mean, the Darksaber, we've heard about it. We heard about it in Rogue One. So perhaps it does eventually fall into the hands of the Empire. I mean, who knows? If the Darksaber has a dark crystal in it. Dark crystal, get it? Bouger, 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 bouger. Ogra, right? That's what it was, yeah. But we have seen Snoke with a dark ring that has a crystal in it that's black. Is it the Darksaber's crystal that's on Snoke's ring? Did he get it from the Empire because they had the Darksaber and dismantled it? Or is it just another dark crystal that has nothing to do with the Darksaber and it's totally unrelated at all? That's another question we all will have. Maybe we'll get an answer in Season 4, maybe we won't. But I'm pretty excited to see the Mandalorians. I'm pretty excited to see this battle. I'm pretty excited to see Sabine wield the dark saber once again. Bo-Katan. Seeing Fen Rao in here, that is awesome. You know, seeing that he's back. The hardest to find action figure in the recent years. I think I've seen him go for hundreds of dollars online. It's crazy. But anyways, they should have just made millions of them. I don't understand why Hasbro doesn't want to make any money. But then we got, this is cool, Saw Gerrera's back with 2 tubes. And we start to see the remnants, the beginnings of the rift between Saw Gerrera and Mon Mothma. And that Mon Mothma spoke of it in Rogue One. And we have Saw Gerrera saying, do you want to continue to fight on the Empire's terms? He's obviously arguing with Mon Mothma in this. And he says, if you are, you're going to lose, in a sense. He's talking to somebody else, like, do you want to continue to run Mon Mothma's errands, or do something that actually matters? And I wonder if he's talking to Ezra, and maybe even Kanan and the crew of the Ghost crew, you know. But we'll have to see exactly who he's talking to in that. I know in the first part, where he says, do you want to continue to fight on the Empire's terms? You're going to lose. He's arguing with Mon Mothma about that. But the second one, do you want to continue to run Mon Mothma's errands, or do something that actually matters? I have a feeling he's talking to Ezra on that one. And that might lead into Ezra's comments at the end, which we'll get into later. But I'll bring it right back to this, you know. But I think it's interesting that we're seeing a lot of the rift that's starting between Mon Mothma and Saw Gerrera and his band of rebels. Maybe even more so than what I think we saw a little taste of it before, but now we're really solidifying that rift that was mentioned in Rogue One, and I think that's pretty cool. Oh my gosh, incredible characters! First up, look at this, we see Yavin 4. Yay! It's so cool! But we got Callus, we got Dodonna, we got Rex, we got Bail Organa, and yes, here he comes. Grand Admiral Thrawn is back. Grand Moff Tarkin talks to Grand Admiral Thrawn about his TIE Defender. Tarkin drops the name of Director Krennic, but I have seen in a tweet that we will not get Director Krennic in the series. I couldn't find the tweet to post it here, but I do feel like I saw one from Dave Filoni saying something to the effect of, that cape would be so hard to render, it would cost my entire budget for the episode just to do that cape. So I think that means that we're not going to see an animated version of Orson Krennic, Director Krennic, in this, in this Rebels Season 4 or in any cartoon form. But Tarkin does drop his name. He says that Stardust, Krennic's project, is the one that seems to be more in favor. The TIE Defender is at risk. So Thrawn, I think, has to prove that the TIE Defender is worth a project that needs to be kept around, you know. And maybe this is the start of Thrawn's departure. Maybe this is the start of where Thrawn will end up at the end of this season. Because I really hope that we do not see Thrawn dying. I hope that we just see Thrawn leaving. Either he falls out of favor because he couldn't stop this rebel cell, and the Emperor himself sends him out to the outer regions, and maybe the story picks up, in between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, we have the Heir to the Empire trilogy. That would be pretty cool if they suddenly make that canon, or at least parts of it. Maybe they can get rid of the parts with Luke Skywalker and Mara Jade and their relationship and everything, but they can keep the basic essence of what happened with the remnants of the Empire and when Thrawn came back, and until his ultimate defeat at the end of those books, But I think that would be really cool, rather than having him be killed or destroyed at the end of this one. But maybe the other thing is that after the TIE Defender gets turned down, the project gets scrapped, and they go in favor of Stardust, which we know is the Death Star from Rogue One. Maybe Thrawn just decides to leave on his own, and he just returns to the Chiss ascendancy, right? So I think that would also be a nice end to his arc in Rebels rather than seeing him die, because I just can't imagine that this band of rebels could be enough to take down Thrawn. It just doesn't seem like they're cunning or powerful enough to do it. Although maybe remnants inside the Empire will do it for us. We could end up seeing a confrontation between Thrawn and Vader, and we all know that Vader could easily take down Thrawn. So, or maybe it's even Tarkin because of Thrawn's ambition and how far he's moving forward and how fast he's moving. Based on the novel and what we've seen in Rebels, perhaps Tarkin himself, through his own ambition, wants to remove Thrawn from power, and it's Tarkin that takes him out. I could see that as happening as well. But we will all have to wait and see, I guess, It's anyone's guess at this point what happens to Thrawn. But I really like that he sends a new bounty hunter after Hera, and it's pretty cool because we also see Bossk fighting with Zeb, Hera in a red B-Wing fighter suit, Vizago's in the background if you notice in one of these shots. So I'm thinking this is all related. Perhaps that bounty hunter uses Bossk as part of his crew. If that is Bossk, it could be a different Trandoshan. I don't know. And then they capture her. And then we see another couple images of them in what you would say like disguise, I guess. Or maybe they're just in some other getup that they needed for the mission to rescue Hera. And that's where I think it comes back to Hera and Kanan talking about their relationship. And, I think this is really cool. They've hinted at this relationship at various times throughout the first 3 seasons of Star Wars Rebels. So we all knew that there was something between Hera and Kanan that's more than just a friendship. They have an intimate relationship that they've hinted at multiple times. And it seems to me that Kanan wants to step that relationship up and perhaps even allow that relationship to take them out of the rebellion. Because we see Kanan saying, when are you going to feel you've done enough for this rebellion? And she responds with, I guess I never really gave it any thought about it. I guess I never really thought about it, right? So Kanan then responds, so I guess you never really thought about us. Implying to me that Kanan wants out and that he was thinking when this mission or when this little rebellion getting started was finished, him and Hera would run off somewhere and be on their own. Because Kanan knows that Vader's coming for him. Him and Ezra. And Kanan knows deep down that there's no way he can stop Vader. He's going to die if he comes up against Vader again. So perhaps in Kanan's mind, he's like, I want out. I want to escape. I want to go and live our lives and live it with you, Hera. I want to be there with you and live the remaining moments together. I mean, what do you think? But I do think, they do get Hera back, and maybe this conversation is after they get Hera back. Who knows? But when they get Hera back, because you can see Kanan still wearing the getup that he was in that other shot where they were kind of like in disguise, or maybe they're just wearing different outfits for the mission. The mission called for these outfits. I don't know, because you can clearly see their faces, so it's not really a disguise, I guess. I don't know. We'll have to see. But he says, I wish I could see you. And she responds with, you could always see me. Which I think is touching. It's really nice to see that. I think it's really cool to see X-Wings in Rebels, finally. And Chopper's in one. Did you catch that? Look at that. Speaking of Chopper, I like his new paint. That's a cool paint job. But I want to get back to the Loth Wolves. So you see the Loth Wolves. You see Ezra walking through. Kanan is actually shown with the wolves behind him. So they don't just take on Ezra's side. They take on the whole Jedi side. I think they have some connection to the Force. Sort of like some of the Loth cats seem to do. Those owls where they had Chopper Base seem to have some connection to the Force. Clearly, the spiders could sense your fear on that planet, so they may have had some connection to the Force. Maybe this is all coming together in the cycle of life and making you realize that all living things, all life, has a connection to the Force in some way. And not just hominids or humanoids can use or sense the Force, but also animals as well. And there's a lot of people who think that Ahsoka has something to do with these wolves. I haven't seen anything that would lead me to believe so, and we saw nothing of Ahsoka or Darth Vader, mind you, in the trailer. So there's no right reason right now that I would associate Ahsoka in any way with these wolves. If you do have something that stands out, please let me know. But you hear Kanan reciting again the wisdom that he had given to Ezra before. It's not whether or not we fight. It's not whether or not we fight. It's how we choose to fight that matters. And Ezra echoes that. He goes, it's how we choose to fight that matters. I know, Kanan. But then he pauses and then says, maybe we're choosing the wrong way. Now, I know that a lot of people online are taking this to mean that he might be going more on a dark path, but I think it's leading him more towards a neutral path, similar to what Ahsoka did. And meeting Ahsoka and knowing, he met Ahsoka in the past, of course, we all know that, and knowing that Ahsoka's not a Jedi, but she still uses the Force and uses those white lightsabers, which I guess are purified crystals from one of the Inquisitors. I think one of them, Dave Filoni or Pablo Hidalgo, someone confirmed that on Twitter or something, that she took the red crystals out of a Inquisitor's lightsaber, purified them to making them pure white, and then putting them in 2 different lightsabers of her own new creation. And so, I mean, Ezra could be thinking along those same lines, that perhaps it's better to walk down a path that's more in the middle. Bendu was in the middle. We now know that Luke Skywalker is probably more towards the middle and not necessarily a Jedi or a Sith in the new movie. So, all these different aspects of the Star Wars universe are pulling us toward not a black and white world, not a good and bad, but there's an in-between, a gray area in all these stories. And I think what they're going to do is they're really pulling apart the Jedi and the Sith, and now turning these lightsaber-wielding Force users into something in the middle, something in between. So I think that's pretty interesting. I'm excited to see where that goes in everything, both in The Last Jedi and here in Star Wars Rebels Season 4. But I want to end it with, we had Hera's great speech. That's what I wanted to end it with. So she says, we will not stand down. We will not be broken by fear. We are strong, united in our courage, and now is our time. So that's clearly some kind of speech she gives. I don't know if it's just to the Ghost crew, or if it's a speech that she's going to actually give to like Mon Mothma and those guys that we saw on the council there, in a sense, in the meeting room. But she's clearly calling someone or some group to fight and to stand up and to not back down and be united by courage and win this battle, at least, if not the war, But it shows Hera taking her leadership role. And I know that we will see by the end that Hera is promoted to General Syndulla, which is what we heard over the loudspeaker in Rogue One, where we saw Chopper and we heard Hera Syndulla's name over the loudspeaker as General Syndulla. We saw the Ghost in Rogue One. So we know that Hera and Chopper survived to Rogue One. This leads us to the remaining characters. You hear Ezra say all the paths are coming together, right? And Kanan responds, I'm just not sure we're going to like where they lead. So it hints at a thing that their paths come back together in this season. Perhaps after the Mandalorian conflict, things like that. And then they may end up leading in different directions after these conflicts are resolved that we're going to see throughout the season. And my feeling is perhaps once Lothal has been liberated and Price and them are gone, the Empire is driven off, maybe we will see Sabine return to Mandalore, or what's left of Mandalore, and having to put her people, the pieces of her people, back together. Because perhaps Bo-Katan and her mother are both gone by the end, and Sabine may see herself as the only one left. I mean, I don't know, that's anyone's guess at this point. But I don't think everyone in the crew is going to die. I just can't see that as happening. I can't see Disney doing that. If anyone's going to die, there's going to be like one or, maybe two characters, if any. And I just don't see them killing off an entire crew of people. It doesn't make sense. I mean, it just doesn't seem like the Disney way. But I don't know. I mean, Rogue One, that was pretty dark. Probably the darkest Star Wars story we've seen. But this is a cartoon. Kids are watching it. That's made for kids. Granted, probably 10-year-old kids, but 10 to 12-year-olds. But I mean, I think they've always said that first and foremost, it's for children. So I just can't see them killing off everybody. Zeb, that's a big question. What happens to Zeb? I could see him heroically sacrificing his life to save the rest of the group, but I also could see him getting wounded to the point where he's not able to fight. And perhaps his pride, if he stayed, would keep him in the fight, but he knows, or maybe someone suggests, that he's not in any condition to continue fighting. So he ends up joining his people. Now, we saw that hint, we saw that drop of his people leaving through that weird thing in space that no one can seem to get through except for his people, But maybe he finds a way through that and he ends up joining them on the other side of that rift or Great Maw or whatever that starlight thing was, the field of stars or something where the gravity's too much to get through, so there's only one path. I don't know. But maybe he ends up back over there. We don't know. Rex, I mean, what happens to Rex? I feel like he has... I mean, maybe he goes with Zeb. Maybe he also is hurt. Maybe he's too old. Maybe he just dies of old age. We don't know. And then it comes down to Ezra and Kanan. Well, they're Jedi. And my biggest concern with Jedi being in any story prior to A New Hope is that you're led to believe that all of them were dead. All right? Now, granted, Obi-Wan has met Ezra, which I think makes him aware of Kanan. And then also might make him still aware of Ahsoka being around. Okay? So, if Obi-Wan is telling Luke that there's nobody left, then he must know that the light has gone out of the galaxy, that those three Jedi, or Force users, I guess we shouldn't call them Jedi at this point anymore. Perhaps the only one who's still a Jedi, or feels himself to be a Jedi, is Kanan. But, they're, Force users, once they come in contact with somebody, we've seen it over and over again, that they can connect with another living thing. Leia sensed when Han died, even though Han was not a Force user. So you don't even have to be using the Force to have that connection with someone who does use the Force or can be sensitive to the Force. So I think that when Kanan, Ezra, and Ahsoka finally perish, Obi-Wan is going to feel that because he now knows and is aware that they are all alive. So, based on what we saw in Season 3, maybe even parts of Season 2. So, but definitely what we saw in Season 3 with twin sons especially, right? Because he comes in contact with Ezra. Yoda's aware of them being alive. We've seen Yoda communicating with Ezra. We know Yoda was aware of Kanan when he was in the temple as well. Yoda obviously knew that Ahsoka was alive. So even in that connection, Yoda can sort of, I mean, I'm sure they communicates with Obi-Wan. And we've seen that Yoda can communicate over a distance using those little light orbs or whatever. So I'm sure that while Yoda's sitting in Dagobah and Obi-Wan is sitting on Tatooine, they're communicating. So, yeah, I just think that if Obi-Wan's aware of them all, if Yoda's aware of them all, and they do tell Luke that he's the last one, and there's only one other hope, and that we assume that was Leia, what he was talking about in Return of the Jedi, that, or was it Empire Strikes Back? Sorry, Empire Strikes Back, right? He says there is another. That is, that was Leia, is what we've always all assumed that was Leia. And not meaning Ahsoka's still out there or someone like that, you know? Or Kanan is still out there, whatever. So, I do think that Kanan and Ezra need to have an end in Rebels Season 4. And we need to finally know what happens to Ahsoka. So, I think we will see a definite end to those three characters. Now, it could mean that Ezra dies. It could mean that Ezra takes the middle road and puts away his lightsaber. It could mean the same thing for Ahsoka, that after that battle with Darth Vader, she puts away her lightsabers and decides to give up all use of the Force and everything, kind of walk away from the whole thing. Sort of like how Luke did. We're assuming right now that Luke has done when he went to after Kylo Ren's fall, Ben Solo's fall to become Kylo Ren. And Luke went off and lived in solitude at this planet, on the island, you know. So perhaps they do the same thing. Maybe Kanan also gives it up. Maybe the rift forms between him and Hera won't go away with him, but he can't fight this battle. He can't continue on. So he has to go his own way. I mean, they could just simply write them all out. But I think it would be more satisfying and more believable, more true to the overall story of all of Star Wars, the entire saga, if these three characters did perish. If Ezra, Kanan, and Ahsoka all die. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to die at the hands of Darth Vader or even the Empire, but I think something has to happen to them. I just do. Well, those are my thoughts. I mean, let me know what you think. And yeah, I mean, let's all look forward to October 16, right? I just can't wait for that. It's going to be awesome. I mean, it's pretty much, a month, right? It's not that far away. A month and 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks, right? But, yeah, I just can't wait. I want to see Star Wars Rebel hyperspacing its way into my living room. But, yeah, so let me know what your thoughts are. What do you think? Does he say Snoke? Does he say is done? What's going to happen to the Ghost Crew? Mandalore, is it going to be over? Is this the end? Will Lothal be freed from the Empire's grasp? And, of course, what paths do all these characters take in the end, including Thrawn? Where do you think he'll end up? You can either leave a comment below or find us on Twitter and discuss @AwesomeGeekShow. And please, if you want to see more, I do mostly toy reviews, but I've been getting into doing a lot of these kind of breakdown videos. But if you want to see more of that, subscribe. Like, comment, share, all that stuff. Get notifications. You know how it works. Alright, talk to you guys later. Thanks a lot for watching another Super Awesome Geek Show video. And keep it geeky out there, everyone. May the Force be with you. Always.